My name's Dvon Duncan. I'm the Wyoming County Supervisor to the Southern Conservation District. And with me here this evening is Bill Harris. He is the NRCS District Conservationist out of the Princeton Field Office, and Becky Floyd, who is the Southern Conservation District Manager. I'm really happy to be a part of this conference today. Just as a note, there are 14 conservation districts in the state of West Virginia, and we're in the southernmost part of the state. We are responsible to 6 counties in southern West Virginia. Those counties are Raleigh, Summers, Fayette, McDowell, Mercer, and Wyoming counties. Now, for those of you who may not know, the mission of the conservation districts are to provide local self-government leadership and initiative in the development and conservation of soil, water, and related resources. We have a balanced planning, education, and management program that helps us to protect, restore, and improve those resources. And we accomplish that in cooperation with many partners, including NRCS, in cooperation with landowners, government agencies, and private organizations. We have a number of programs that we offer under the Ag Enhancement Program, and we have 2 sign-up periods. Our first sign-up period is July 5th through the 15th, and the practices that we are going to be signing folks up for are lime, fencing, pond cleanout, and water system. Our second sign-up period date has not yet been set, but that is typically in the winter months, and we'll be doing nutrient management, frost seeding, and invasive species. Now, those of you who are not in the Southern Conservation District will need to check with your conservation district to see what practices they are planning on taking on for the Ag Enhancement Program. As for what we do and what we offer our farmers, for lime, there's a $25 per ton flat rate, and it's based on soil test recommendations. Exclusion fencing is $1.25 per foot up to 1,600 feet to exclude from woodlands or water. Our pasture division fencing is also $1.25 per foot up to 1,600 feet to divide pastures for rotational grazing. And pond cleanout, which is a 50% cost share rate on the project cost. Lastly, the water system is a 50% cost share rate on the project cost for tire or concrete troughs. We have a crew in place that has the capacity to perform various farm work, including but not limited to stump and tree removal, brush removal, fence building, pond cleanouts, water system installation, and slope mowing in areas that a tractor might not be able to cut. Project work that may need to be completed either through the Ag Enhancement Program cost share partnering with the district, or privately the crew is willing and able to take on these projects from our cooperators. Those who are in the Southern Conservation District can feel free to call for availability of our equipment and to get complete estimated price quotes. Dave Parklow is our point of contact, and that telephone number is 304-253-0261. Now, I mentioned rental equipment and other things that our crew is able to do. We have hourly rates for each of these. We've got a JD 450 dozer at $60 an hour, a JD 790 long stick excavator at $120 an hour, a Cat 312 and a Cat 315 excavator, each at $90 an hour. We also have a 5610 Ford tractor with loader, and that includes bush hog operation at $55 an hour, a slope mower at $80 an hour, and a post driver with tractor at $75 an hour. We have some large trucks that we can help our cooperators with. We've got a Sterling tandem dump at $60 an hour, along with an international tandem dump, also at that rate, and a lime truck with a blower at that rate of $60 an hour. Now our lime truck with the spreader is $50 an hour. We have 2 pickup trucks, and pickup trucks are at $20 an hour. Mechanic truck with tools is $65 an hour. The labor rate per person is $30 an hour, and these rates are, of course, based upon a 40-hour work week. We have a chipper at $20 an hour plus the labor rate. The rental is $250 a day. And a straw blower, $20 an hour, rental $250 a day. If we spread the lime for you, lime delivered and spread is $50 a ton. Under 6 tons, it's prorated. 1 ton is 40%, 2 tons is 35%, 3 tons is 30%, 4 tons is 25%, and 5 tons is 20%. If lime is delivered outside our district, and we can, as long as it's not too far outside the district, it's $60 a ton. And if it's picked up here at the Southern Conservation District, $35 a ton, but you have to schedule for that pickup. Now, any rentals picked up on Friday will have to have a 2-day charge unless returned on Friday. There are a few more pieces of equipment with which we can help. We've got the buggy lime spreader at $75 a day. Host driver, self-contained, at $75 a day, as well as the no-till grass drill. We have a small seeder at $25 a day, a weed wiper at $40, and a 60-gallon utility sprayer at $40 a day, and a fertilized spreader at $25 a day. I'd be happy to answer any questions if you have them.
If anyone has a question, they can ask it now, or they can hit the chat button. Anyone have questions for the Conservation District?
The only thing I left out was that Marty Walker is our point of contact for the Ag Enhancement Program.
Wonderful. Thank you guys so much for participating, and I'm sure we'll probably have some questions later that we may need to forward you. Like I said, we will have several people watching this at a later date. Bill, are you ready?
Again, I'm Bill Harris, Conservationist for USDA Natural Resources Conservation Service in Princeton. We are the technical arm of the U.S. Department of Agriculture. We provide assistance to local farmers and landowners to plan and apply voluntary conservation on their private land. We provide that assistance either in the office, if you would like, or we do and come out to the farm and look at whatever you need to look at out on the land. In addition to the technical assistance that we provide, whether it's related to cropland and crop rotation, soil conservation, to livestock producers developing livestock water systems or grazing management systems on their hay pasture land. We also provide some cost share programs, if you will, or programs that help pay for some of the conservation that you may apply. And that's a voluntary program. We have some programs through the Environmental Quality Incentive Program available statewide related to wildlife, and some of the high tunnel systems that you've seen being put in, plastic greenhouses under the strike force. There are also other targeted conservation programs being developed through the local work group that would be available in your local area. And you can either look up in your phone book for your local office. There's an office that covers every county in the state, although there may be an office that would have to cover 2 or 3 counties from one location. In addition to the EQIP program, there's financial assistance available through the Agriculture Enhancement Program, primarily for irrigation type systems on the high tunnels and cropland. There are a conservation stewardship program funding to help, I guess, pay farmers for doing a good job of conservation, and a little bit more for providing some extra enhancements to their land that might benefit wildlife or water quality. One of the other things that we get involved in here more and more is related to soil quality or soil health. There is a push nationally to help renovate some of our degraded soil and to provide, a good soil for growing our crops or whatever we want to grow for years to come, sustainable agriculture. There's a lot of other things that we might discuss, but I'll hold for any questions and answer any questions at this time or later.
Right.
Jody, back.
Are there any questions at this moment? All right. Thank you so much, Bill.
Good evening, everyone. What you can see right here is I put together just a small PowerPoint. If you need copies of it or anything like that, Jody will have it. Purpose of the Farm Service Agency. We are a small agency within the USDA. We don't deal with food stamps. We don't deal with wildlife or anything like that, which USDA does, but we deal strictly with farmers, and that's all we deal with. The purpose is to provide a safety net for producers, to protect from market fluctuations, to provide disaster assistance, protect sensitive land through conservation practices, provide financing, maintain records, and we're also basically a clearinghouse for all the other agencies, and I'll talk to you about that a little bit later on in the presentation. But our overall goal is to provide a safe and abundant and affordable supply of food and fiber. How do we do it? Congress gets involved with this. We work under them through farm bills. They enact certain programs or pass certain laws that require programs for us to provide to the farmers. The regulations are written by people in Washington, D.C. and sent out to the counties for us to administer. Each office is what they call a county executive director, or CD, and you will see that we are plumb full of acronyms with this outfit. And at least one program technician or a PD. One of the unique things about us is our county committee system. They're farmer elected, and they are the ones that govern all of FSA's affairs. They're elected by you, the farmers in the communities, to represent you. They serve 3-year terms. They are my boss. No one can come in there and do anything to me. They're the only ones that can hire or fire me. They can never fire me. Make decisions on programs, either approvals or disapprovals. Determine eligibility, whether a person is eligible for a program or whether they're not. If there is an appeal, they deal with that. And they keep the agency informed of any problems or concerns in their local areas. For my area, I cover 6 counties. That's almost 3,100 square miles. I do good to keep up with what's going on in my own place, much less somebody else's. But the county committees out there, they're hearing things. It's dry in my area. We've had a flash flood. They report that in. And they ensure that everybody's treated fairly. The safety net I mentioned earlier, where they provide it. Agricultural risk coverage and price loss coverage. That's a grain program that we have. Not real popular because we're not a real popular grain state, but that is available. We do have some participants in it. A marketing loan, assistance loan. It's a 9-month non-recourse loan that someone can get on their commodity, be it wool, a grain crop such as corn, and that's our most popular is corn. We can make them a loan for that. At the end of the 9 months, when it's up, they can either repay it or they can say, no, take the commodity, and we'll take the corn or whatever the commodity is as payment for the loan, and there's no recourse to it. They can come again and do it next year. We have loan deficiency payments. Whenever a price on a commodity drops below a certain level, this kicks in. Corn, wool, honey, when the national average price drops, and it varies from year to year to whatever that would be, it can be anywhere from 3 cents. I've made them up to as high as 47 cents a bushel on corn. And margin protection program, that's for the dairy farmers. We don't have a lot of dairies in our area, but I know there is several out through the state, but that is available. Disaster assistance, that's probably where we get most of our activity at. Non-insured crop disaster assistance program, or NAP, there's another acronym, is basically crop insurance for the crops that you can't get insurance for. Livestock indemnity program, that's been popular the past few years with people with livestock losses due to weather. Emergency livestock assistance program covers fish and honeybees. And we're finding out that there's a whole lot more bee producers out there than what I thought there was because of this program. And then our emergency conservation program. NAP, I'll start with it. Provides coverage for crops that are not insured in a county. I've mentioned that. What's unique about it is it's based on your yield. It's not on state or national. A lot of our programs, they go on with a national yield for whatever is a certain amount, but yet you're not producing that. These are based on yours, and we establish those over a 10-year period. It also covers hay and pasture. The basic coverage for it, just what they call catastrophic coverage or basic, covers a 50% loss at 55% of the market price. Buy-up coverage is available. You can buy it up. But the basic coverage is $250 per crop, up to $750 per county. What just come about out of the last farm bill is minorities and limited resource farmers get this basic coverage for free. Livestock indemnity program covers weather-related losses that's above normal mortality. Everybody, if you're dealing with livestock, you know that you're going to have losses. What this does is it covers above it, and there's built into different, and that's mentioned down there, normal mortality applied to each species and age group. You've got to provide proof of ownership and proof of death. Proof of ownership is really not that hard. Proof of death is where we've been having some trouble. You have to prove that it was weather that killed it. What we recommend is a vet statement. It may cost you $50, $80 to take to a vet and have them to do it, but that's a golden ticket almost. You have to notify us within 30 days from the date of loss, and the payments are set at 75% of the yearly market rate. Emergency livestock assistance covers basically the same things or the same way, except it's for fish and honeybees. The program year is a little different on it. It's November 1st through October 31st, and the payments are factored. There's a certain amount of money nationwide that's let out each year for this, and they factor that depending on how many applications they get. Emergency conservation program, don't use the whole lot, but in case of a major disaster, I guess the last time we used it was the derecho we had in 2012. We had a lot of wind damage, had some debris removal and that type of thing. Floods, tornadoes, those type of things that come through. When I talk about conservation structures, we're looking at dams, spring developments, and that type of thing. It takes congressional approval for funding, so we can have the program but never get it funded. Fencing is real popular with it, but they're prorating the fence. So you have to be able to prove how old your fence is. Cost share rate is 75%, and it does not cover barns or sheds. We get a lot of questions about that. Some conservation programs, it's a Conservation Reserve Program, CRP, and Conservation Reserve Enhancement Program. CRP, it takes sensitive land out of production. You start talking to people in the mountains around here, they do not want to take their land out of production. So there again, you can see where that would not be very popular. But it's available to them if they would want to do it. They're paid a rental rate for each acre removed. Contracts are a minimum of 10 years, and the land cannot be used for agricultural production, meaning it has to be taken out. Same thing with Conservation Reserve, except we're covering what they call marginal pasture land with it. And that's the margin along streams, Creek banks, anything that would have water running through it, we're fencing those off, planting it to trees. We're making a rental payment for that. It cannot be hay or graze. We will provide some cost share for water systems if you need to move them away from those streams. Farm loans. That's we have farm loan teams spread out through the state. Talks about getting credit under reasonable rates and terms. That means that we will accept a payment once a year, where most banks, they want a monthly payment. We'll say we'll take a payment when you sell your cattle. The loans can be made for farm purchases, improvements, equipment, livestock purchases, whatever you need to keep that farm operating or to purchase. There's special money for farmers, minorities, women, and youth. Contact your county office to see where your local farm service office or your farm loan office is to get more details about that. There's some loan types. Farm ownership, up to $300,000. If you've been looking at farms lately, you can't buy much of a farm for $300,000, but that's the limit that's set on it. Operating loans also $300,000. Microloan, that's designed for some of the smaller farming operations. They've taken some of the paperwork and requirements out of it. It's a $50,000 limit, but it moves a lot quicker than our normal. Youth loans, we are making some youth loans to our 4-H and FFA kids, $5,000 limit. And emergency loans, that goes along with our disaster programs. Maintain records is something that we do. Farm photographs is probably one of the most popular things that we have. Everybody wants a photograph of their farm. We have those, and we try to keep them updated as much as possible, but we are taking whatever you all come in and draw off as what it is. They're not a tax record, and by far not an accurate as far as boundaries, and when you're dealing with woodland, we can't pinpoint that chestnut stump that it was surveyed to 100 years ago. Crop reports, that's what we're doing right now. You'll report how many acres of hay, how many acres of pasture, how many acres of corn, how many acres of vegetable crops, whatever it would be. You'll get those crop reports. We try to mail ours out. A lot of times people will come into the office and file them though. We do eligibility records. Are you a U.S. citizen? Are you over 18 years old? Do you provide the land capital, that type of thing, to do this farming operation? Highly erodible and wetland conservation determinations. The determination is made by NRCS. We maintain the records for it, though. We maintain cropping history records, production records, weather data, and any disasters it's about. And we're a clearinghouse. There's a new program called Bridge to Opportunity. Participants with this will give us their information. Someone calls into the office and we get calls for everything. It may be something to deal with taxes, farm law, crop production, health, food stamps, anything that you can imagine that they would call in about. We've got this on a system where we can give them, make a referral. What we'll try to do is answer the question ourselves if we can. If not, we'll refer them on. But we're to the correct agency. Here's the contact information for the Beckley office. Of course, there's me, Christy Jones, Laura Martin are the PTs. There's our phone number and fax number. And the county committee that we're operated through. You can see there for Mercer McDowell, where I'm at right now, Tabitha Carter, James Mayberry, and the others. It's on our county committee. I serve under 9 members to that. They're very active. They keep in touch with the areas that they serve. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Keith. And as Keith alluded to, of course, your FSA group would be different depending on which part of the state you're in, and you can contact your local office and find out more about who would be serving you. All right. Are there any questions for Keith? All right. Next, we will move to Bill Shiflett, and he's going to talk about your farm insurance needs, things that you might want to consider. So I'm going to switch that over to him right now. He's in Monroe County with Brian Wickline.
We're dealing with farm insurance. There are basically 4 principles of a farm policy, and that is property coverage, liability coverage, your business auto, and your umbrella. The property coverage are things that pay you when you incur a loss. They cover your home, your dwelling, just like a homeowner's. Your equipment. Equipment is very expensive now, so it's very important that we make sure it's properly and adequately covered. Your livestock or your plants or your vegetables or the things that you market can be covered under the property coverage, and of course your buildings and barns. Your liability coverage gives you coverage to pay the other person that you have been found liable for a loss. There are many, many exclusions, and there are many, many coverages, endorsements that you can add depending on your operation, and we'll talk about that a little more in depth. Of course, your business auto policy we'll talk about. I'm not going to spend much time on an umbrella. That is if you think you need more than $1 million of liability, you can purchase an umbrella, and it will give you coverage above and beyond your auto liability and your general farm liability. Okay, next screen. Okay, your home and dwelling, most people understand. Your contents coverage is just a percentage of your dwelling amount. Most times you can increase it if you have a lot of expensive things in your house, but most of the time it's more than adequate. For an example, if you have $200,000 on your dwelling, you may have $130,000 on contents that comes with the package. That's usually adequate for everyone. You cannot lower that in most cases, your contents, but you can increase it. Also, there's usually 10% of your dwelling amount will cover buildings that are used to maintain your house. And those are, if you use them to store your lawnmower and maintain your property, but not your farm, no commercial buildings are included in this coverage. Once again, that is usually a 10% limit. It can be increased, but most time it cannot be decreased. And I want to emphasize, most policies for farm policies that are sold in West Virginia are very similar. There's a few different things with different companies. We do not have a whole lot of companies that sell farm policies in West Virginia, but most of them are the same, but there may be little differences. So remember that when you look at your own policy or you go to purchase policy, and ask for the big differences that the companies have. Okay, for equipment and livestock, this is, of course, you can't usually insure your equipment and livestock on a regular homeowners, so this is one reason that you want to look to purchase a farm policy. It is much cheaper to list your items of equipment individually instead of a blanket for just equipment. If you list everything in a value, you get a cheaper rate than just a blanket policy for your equipment. Now, it's very difficult for a cow-calf producer to list every cow, so most people just do a blanket policy on your livestock, and you need to understand that some things are not covered for livestock and cannot be covered unless you get a Lloyd's of London for a racehorse or something like that, and that's health issues. A lot of dairymen are upset when they're first-time dairymen and their cows die from whatever, mastitis or a twisted stomach, whatever, and they can't get that covered. And you just have to understand that the insurance industry is not set up to cover health issues with livestock. But lightning, if they get hit in the road, accidentally shot, there are many things that are covered, but health is not. The other thing you need to realize if you are a cow-calf producer, it is cheaper to buy peak season coverage for your calves. That means that you would tell your insurance company that you usually calve in March and April, and you sell your calves in October, so they charge you a less rate because you will not have many calves on your farm from October until February. They also prorate the value because that calf, when it's born, may be worth $300 or $400, but when you sell it, it may be worth $750 to $800 or last year even more. So you're paying a less rate because the calf's not worth $800 its whole life. Next screen. There are many, many endorsements that you can purchase for property coverage, and here's just a few. I think our company has close to 40, and I'm not going to go through all of them, but dairy milk contamination, that's if a dairy farmer would happen to get antibiotics in his milk and have to dump his milk, or the company dumps his milk, we would pay them for that loss. Farm identity theft is now a big thing that we all need to be concerned with credit cards or any other situation. And also your building and barn coverage used in the farm operation need to be scheduled. Each individual barn It will be rated based on the type of building it is, whether it's a type 1, 2, or 3, and you need to come to an understanding of what value you want to place on that barn. Next screen. Okay, liability. Liability is a very complicated subject, and it's not one that's much fun to talk about. Farm liability covers a lot more than your standard homeowner's liability. And the big thing to know here, when you purchase a farm policy, you are purchasing for exposures that a homeowner's will not cover. The other thing to know about liability, there are many, many endorsements that need to be looked at to suit your individual needs. And this is the big thing that I see when I see people moving in and starting new farms or small farms with bees and selling their produce different places. It's not just like the normal cow-calf operation. You really need to understand what you're doing and how you can cover your liability. Livestock that damages a neighbor's crop or causing accidents are common claims that are covered. But here are some endorsements that I find interesting that most people don't understand. If you have a beekeeping operation, you need to buy, with most companies, buy that liability coverage. And when I talk to beekeepers, they think, why would I do that? But if they would maim or kill someone, which most people don't feel like their bees would, it's still something that needs to be purchased. Limited farm pollution liability endorsement. If you do a lot of spraying, especially now that we're getting in a lot of organic farms, if you're a neighbor to an organic farm, this is something that I would look into. You would not want him to lose 2 or 3 years of income because you accidentally sprayed your neighbor's fence and it got over and he lost his organic, what do you call it, Brian? Your organic, whatever, status. Yeah, your status, I'm sorry. Custom farm endorsement. That's if you perform baling or you do custom farming besides on your own. It's something that's not covered under general liability, and you need to purchase that endorsement. We have a lot of people in Monroe County that spread lime fertilizer. They plant corn for other people, and this is something that they need to have on their policy because it is excluded without it. The big item also is a recreational liability endorsement for off-premises. If you drive a UTV up and down the road, if you have kids that do it, you really need to purchase this recreational liability endorsement. You're supposed to have it state law if you're on the road, but it's good to have even if you're not on the road and something happens, even if you're in a national forest or whatever. You should look in and quote that for your policy. Now we're getting into some specifics. The orchard you pick operations, people come on your property, the row crop you pick. These are just specific things that you may need in your operation. There are several liability endorsements for equine care and custody. That's horses, whether you board them, whether you breed them. And if you have a horse operation, I strongly urge you to go talk to your insurance agent and ask him what's available and explain to him accurately what you're doing and how you're raising horses and what you do, because it is very tricky, and you need to make sure you're properly covered with horses. Roadside stand and sales endorsement. That's if you yourself are taking the corn or whatever to the side of the road to sell. And then another one that's more and more is the farmers market sales operation. We're seeing liability all over the country with vegetables, with E. coli, salmonella, listeria, and this is something that you need to have on your policy if you're going to participate in these sales. Okay, next screen. And just as in the dairy farm where we pay the dairyman if he loses his milk, if he would let a batch of tainted milk get out and it cost his neighbor's dairy, this is on the liability side, you need to purchase this endorsement, so we would pay that other farmer who had to have his milk, the tank when it was dumped, we would pay for his liability, so that it's on both property and liability. Some more would include firewood sales. A lot of farmers do that to help their income. Incidental hunting operations, if you charge, that's another one you can purchase. And something that's very important is make sure you list all of your locations that you have a farm exposure. I know a lot of my farmers they rent maybe 3 or 4 different farms, and we need to make sure that every location is listed so that if a steer gets out and gets hit in the road, that we don't have some attorney say, well, we're not covering that because it was not properly listed. It's just to make sure you understand what your exposures are, and the company does as well, because we do not want surprises. All right, next screen. Okay, your business auto is much like your personal auto, but there's things that I always like to emphasize. A lot of people have always heard that your liability extends to your trailer. Well, that is true if it's under 2,000 pounds. But if you'll read the fine print in your policy, if your trailer is over 2,000 pounds on most 90% of the policies, that trailer needs to be listed on the policy for liability coverage. If your trailer would jackknife and you would hit a car, or if it came unhooked, we do not want coverage to be denied because you are the owner of that trailer and it was over 2,000 pounds. If you borrow someone's trailer, the liability does extend no matter what the weight on most policies. So all goosenecks, if you own them, they should be listed on your policy. Here's another thing, the difference between some companies. Some companies will extend farm use vehicles from the general liability policy just like a tractor, and it's considered in the West Virginia Code as a vehicle of husbandry, like a tractor. But some companies now are saying we're not going to cover that motor vehicle on the general liability, and it has to be listed in the business auto. The farm use was designed for silage trucks and trucks not meant for the road, and now we're seeing a lot of people use the farm use, probably not as the statute intended, but you do not have to get it inspected if you do not drive at night. A lot of people think they can get around the insurance law, but that's not true. You still have to have insurance on it, just whether it's part of your general liability or scheduled in your business auto. So please check your policy and ask your agent before you start driving a farm use truck around and think you're covered. The other thing, just please understand that most commercial policies, not just farm business, they do not have all the bells and whistles of your normal personal auto policy. Non-owned coverage for rental and replacement vehicles does not automatically extend from the farm business policy unless you purchase it, unlike a personal policy. Towing and labor, rental, and other things have to be added. So just do not think it's the same policy as you purchase for your personal auto. Next screen. And last, I just want to say is insurance is not simple or easy to understand. And if you read your policy, they're very thick. Do not be afraid or embarrassed to ask questions. The simplest things that you would think, uninsured and underinsured, are very, very complicated to understand. But when you get into what is excluded from liability and the things where you have to purchase coverage, there is no silly question, believe me. I've had young girls come to work for me that have taken the test 7 times or 8 times because it is not simple. And no one is a complete expert in it after years and years. So please, please ask coverage. Ask questions. And also, please, there is no such thing as full coverage. On an auto policy or a homeowner's policy, there are a lot of things that are covered that you don't think are covered, and there's things that you think that should be covered are not. So, number one, you need to understand your operation, and you need to explain that to your insurance agent, and then you need to make sure. A lot of people just want the price. They come in, they want a quote, and then they sign and they're gone, and they don't understand until something happens. So whenever I sell a farm policy, I try to go over as many of these things that I can and ask questions, and I always see the glassy-eyed. They just want to sign the paper and get the policy and leave. And then if something happens, they always have, well, you didn't tell me that. So I'm asking everyone to please, it's a very important part of the economics of your policy to, of your farm operation to take care of in case of a loss, but you need to know what is covered and what is not covered. Are there any questions? Brian brought up something to me tonight. I always, when I talk to people, I give them situations. We had a dairy cow get in the road, and a young lady ran into it with a kid, and she broke her ankle, and it was very sad. But they went to court, and it was settled out of court for $1 million. And she was not killed or anything. I mean, just she broke her ankle, and I feel bad for her. But if you think there's not exposure there, when you handle livestock or raise crops and sell them, there is a huge exposure now. And Brian just gave me an article. There's a gentleman in Vermont that had Scottish Highlander cattle, and his bull got in the road 4 times in a summer in a short distance. And the farmer, on the last time it got in the road, a couple hit it, and the man hit a tree, and he died. And they settled out of court, probably for the limits of his policy. But what's interesting in this case, the gentleman has now been charged with involuntary manslaughter because he was negligent, according to the prosecutor, because his bull had been out 4 times. So we're seeing it's always evolving, the legal system, and it's not very seldom in agriculture's favor because of everyone knows that the public is getting farther and farther away from understanding what goes on to bring the food to the table. So I cannot emphasize enough the importance of good fence makes good neighbors, makes peaceful sleeping, and then so many other things. You're now the pollution, the turkey litter, and so forth to make your neighbor happy. There are so many things now that we have to be cognizant of, and it's not the romantic, let's go buy a farm anymore and green acres. There's a lot of risk that we are assuming, as you all probably well know, but I just, for people that are new in the industry, I just can't emphasize enough that you need to really understand what we're getting into and how to try to protect yourself for your livelihood.
All right, thank you so much. Does anybody have any questions for Bill related to insurance? All right, again, I would like to thank all of our presenters this evening, Dvon from the Southern Conservation District, Bill from NRCS, Keith from FSA, and again, Bill from Nationwide, as well as those who joined us. Also, we have Brian from the Extension Service. Brian, do you want to say anything about some things the Extension Service can do for you?
Oh, go ahead, Jody. You've done well tonight.
Well, I'm sure most of you are familiar with the Extension Service. We are, of course, the extension of the university system. We are the branch that is out in every county, all 55 counties. We provide educational topics such as fact sheets and programs such as the Annie's Project. We also have other programs such as our livestock dinner meetings, Master Gardener programs, and all of those types of things. So come and see us in your local county. We do have an office in every single county. You may or may not have an agriculture agent in every county, but we do have an office in every county. Are there any final questions before we end our session tonight? All right. I would also like to thank Mary Beth and Becky and all the other people that have joined us this evening. I will make the PowerPoints available to Dee if she wants to make them available online. If you have any other questions, just let us know. Thank you.